Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Ezekiel 47. We're almost to the end. Ezekiel 47, we have one more chapter after this. 47 and 48, division of the land. And it goes into Daniel from there. This, I think, is going to be a pretty good chapter. This may open some understanding for us. Let's dig right into this. Then, it's titled The Healing Waters and Trees. Then he brought me back to the door of the temple, and there was water flowing from under the threshold of the temple toward the east. Has that ever happened? No. Has it happened now? No. For the front of the temple faced east. The water was flowing from under the right side of the temple, south of the altar. That's never happened. He brought me out by way of the north gate and led me around on the outside of the outer gateway that faces east. There was water running out of the right side. I'm trying to imagine what that would look like, and I have never seen any historical photos, and I haven't seen any accounts of that happening. In fact, when Solomon built his temple, I don't think that was registered, and when they built the last temple, the second one, I don't think that was registered either. Verse 3, and when the man went out to the east with the line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits. And he brought me through the waters. The water came up to my ankles. Again he measured 1,000 and brought me through the waters. The water came up to my knees. Again he measured 1,000 and brought me through. The water came up to my waist. Again he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not cross, for the water was too deep. Water in which one must swim. A river that could not be crossed. Water in which one must swim. You must swim to get across it, but you can't cross it. He said to me, verse 6, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me and returned me to the bank of the river. When I returned there, along the bank of the river, were very many trees on one side and the other. That's, as far as I know, that's never been like that over there, and it still isn't like that today. Then he said to me, this water flows toward the eastern region, goes down into the valley, and enters the sea. When it reaches the sea, its waters are healed. That hasn't happened yet either, because the sea that's down there, down that way, is the Dead Sea. That hasn't happened yet. So this temple that he's described has never existed. It's going to be a future temple. Everything that's going to take place there is all future events. We're getting conclusive proof now, because what he's describing here has never existed. Verse 9, and it shall be that every living thing that moves wherever the river goes will live. There will be a very great multitude of fish, because these waters go there. For they will be healed, and everything will live wherever the river goes. It shall be that fishermen will stand by it, from En-gedi to En-eglaim, or En-eglaim. They will be places for spreading their nets. Their fish will be of the same kinds as the fish of the great sea, exceedingly many. But its swamps and marshes will not be healed. They will be given over to salt. Along the bank of the river, on this side and that, will grow all kinds of trees used for food. Their leaves will not wither, and their fruit will not fail. Well, that's never existed on this earth, ever, except for one. That was way back at the beginning. They will bear fruit every month, because their water flows from the sanctuary. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for medicine. What does it talk about in the book of Revelation when it talks about that river, crystal clear, and the trees that bear every manner of fruit each month, and their fruit is for food, and their leaves are for the healing of the nations? Keyword healing. That's talking about the millennial reign in the book of Revelation. This is talking about the millennial reign. So we have specific wording now telling us this is all that's been described as all future. Verse 13, thus says the Lord God, these are the borders by which you shall divide the land as an inheritance among the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph shall have 2 portions. You shall inherit it equally with one another, for I raised my hand in an oath to give it to your fathers. And this land shall fall to you as your inheritance. This shall be the border of the land on the north, from the great sea by the road to Hethlon, as one goes to Zedad. Hamath, Berothah, Sibram, which is between the border of Damascus and the border of Hamath, to Hazar Hadakon, which is the border of Hauran. Now, a lot of these places, nobody knows where they are anymore. Verse 17, thus the boundary shall be from the sea of Hazar Enan, the border of Damascus, and as for the northward, it is the border of Hamath. This is the north side. So the borders are actually bigger than what they are now. Verse 18, on the east side you shall mark out the border from between Haran and Damascus, and between Gilead and the land of Israel, along the Jordan, and along the eastern side of the sea. This is the east side. Verse 19, the south side toward the south shall be from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the brook of the great sea. This is the south side toward the south. The west side shall be the great sea, from the southern boundary until one comes to a point opposite Hamath. This is the west side. Thus you shall divide this land among yourselves according to the tribes of Israel. And I do believe, I may be wrong, I do believe he just described a square, a big giant square. I'd have to look on a map and see. Verse 22, it shall be that you will divide it by lot as an inheritance for yourselves, and for the strangers who dwell among you and who bear children among you. They shall be to you as native born among the children of Israel. They shall have an inheritance with you among the tribes of Israel. That's never happened before. There was a process to bring people in. Verse 23, and it shall be that in whatever tribe the stranger dwells, there you shall give him his inheritance, says the Lord God. That's never happened before. That's new. So this is all future tense. This is all a future event, a future temple, a future city. And in those times, and during that time, when all nations will flow to Israel, there are going to be people who are going to live there from other places. The Lord may bring them there for specific purposes, and they will become part of the thing, and they will have an inheritance. See, it's not just going to be the Jews that are going to be alive on the earth then. There's going to be other people too. There's a lot of people who are going to wait until the very last minute to get saved. They're not going to see or understand. And they will be the ones there that are human. The sheep and goats judgment is that very thing. That has nothing to do with us. That has to do with people on the earth at that time. So there are going to be, all nations are going to be all over the place, including the remnant of Israel. So these other people are going to be going there. And he talks about that too, that the nations are going to come up and pay homage to the Lord every year, or won't reign on their land. So the world's still going to have quite a few people in it. And this will be the center of it all. The very center. So yeah, everything that's been described here in Ezekiel is all future tense. We haven't seen this yet, but we will. And then you'll get to go back and look at this book and go look at the temple and read it and go, that's that, and there's that part, and there's that part. You'll be able to put a full visual, mental image onto what it's saying, because you'll get to see the real image right there in front of you. So it's going to be incredible to witness. So that was Ezekiel 47, short and to the point. But now we have Ezekiel 48, division of the land. And this may be boring. There's a lot to it. But we're going to read it anyway because it's part of the book. And you never know, we might stumble across some hidden information in there. I already see some, just glancing at it. Yeah, these names of these tribes right here in verses 2 to 7, These are the names of the tribes that existed back when Jesus was um, a baby, or when he was around. That's not the tribes that they're listing now. So, interesting. Very interesting. Because that goes back to the 144,000 and where they came from. Incredible stuff. This Bible is so rich with information. We can't possibly draw it all out. I mean, it would take, again, 1,000 lifetimes of study just to touch on just a little bit of what's in here. There's so much here, and we're going to spend eternity studying this word and learning all the incredible things. We get to sit down with the Lord and have him explain to us what's in the blank spaces between the letters and the sentences, to show us everything that's in this book. There's so much here. So we can never stop reading it. You can never, ever stop reading it. You must keep reading it. Read it, look at the original language, study it, compare different verses, because there's so much more to get out of this. It's not just a cut and dried meaning. There's more to it. There's always more. And it's not just one general consensus that says this is what this means, because the Lord always puts more to it than that. There's always more depth to it than that. So reading this, you're like, oh yeah, they built that temple. But now we realize no, because there's never been trees. First of all, there's never been a river going down that way that was worth anything, especially as big as this one is. But in the book of Revelation talks about that river going down that way too. It's actually going to flow through the split in the Mount of Olives. And it never talks, there's nowhere in there where it talks about the trees lining it that give fruit every month, and the leaves are for medicine. Those trees don't exist over there. If they've built this thing, when was it? Because those trees have never been there. Very interesting. All right, guys, that was Ezekiel 47. Short and sweet, but we get the point, because he just described what the future temple is going to be like. The future situation. And we know this. We can prove this, because you just go back to the beginning of all this, to Ezekiel 40. A new city, a new temple. Well, there hasn't been a new city. Jerusalem that's there has been the Jerusalem that's been there. Where's the new Jerusalem? Hasn't come yet. So if there's a new city, there's a new temple. So this is a new temple. This is the future temple. All right, guys. That was Ezekiel 47. Thank you all very much for watching. I will see you in the next video.